Welcome to the Karen Kenney Show. Hey, you guys, welcome to the Karen Kenney Show. I'm wicked excited to be here with you today. And if you are a regular loyal listener, thank you so much for being here, for coming back. I love that you're here. And if you are new to this podcast, if somebody sent you a link, if somebody referred you, if somebody recommended the show, if they were like, check this shit out or whatever, however you got here, I'm just wicked happy that you're here. So welcome, welcome, welcome. And you guys, I've been trying to get better at this. So just right up front, if you dig the show, if you love the show, if you are like interested in finding out more about how I work, what kind of work I do, when I'm having events, when I'm having retreats, when I'm on other podcasts, when I'm up to shenanigans, just please come and join me on my email list. And you can just sign up at KarenKenney.com/sign up. And then you'll be the first to know all kinds of fun and interesting stuff. So thank you for that. And I hope some of you come and join my email family. All right, you guys, let's just dive right into this sucker. I think this is episode 231, which is pretty incredible when I think I've done 231 consistent weekly episodes. I'm pretty proud of myself. So I'm going to call this sucker, You've Gotta Want It. You gotta want it is what we're calling this. You've gotta want it. Okay. What am I talking about? I'm going to come at this from 2 points of view, but we're going to start with this most personal one, which is the you part, right? You've got to want it for yourself. Now, the impetus of this, the inspiration for this episode has to do with a client that I've been working with and an incredible testimony that they shared recently, right? They wrote me a testimonial. It's their testimony of our work together. And it was so incredible and so impactful. It made me cry. It just like knocked me on my ass in the best way when I read Jordan's story of his POV of what it's been like to work with me. So he wrote me this testimonial. I shared it in my email newsletter. I posted it on social media, and the response has just been like really, really fantastic. So I'm going to come back to this and talk about this a little bit more from 2 points of view. But right now I want to stay in the you've got to want it and how it applies. So excuse me. What I will say is that this testimonial, because it was so impactful and it was so vulnerable and it was so powerful, and really brave and really transparent, it was such an incredible thing that it got people reaching out to me and like asking me questions. Okay, and that's going to be part 2 of this episode. But the first part is this. When I was reading Jordan's testimonial and thinking about where he started months ago to where he is now and all the things that he's had to overcome, the amount of trauma he's had in his life, the amount of things, right? And his story is so impactful that I'm going to have him come on the show. He's already been on the show before, but in a totally different capacity. And I'm going to have him come back on the show because I've been getting such incredible feedback. And I really want to dive more deeply into his story, his success, his transformation in doing this work together with me in a really unconventional way, which is really so powerful. I can't wait. I can't wait for the episode. I'm like, my brain just traveled a little. I just did a little time traveling, went into the future for a moment, and I'm back. I really can't wait to talk about it. But when I got to thinking about like, so why did Jordan have such incredible results? Like what makes his results maybe slightly different from other people I've worked with? So by and large, I've never had anybody write me like a shitty testimonial, right? I've never had somebody come back and say like, hey, this was awful, or this didn't work, or I didn't like this, or like whatever. One of the things, and that's not to say that I'm perfect, right? That's not my point. But when I just have to look at, I think about like Tom Brady, right? I think about Tom Brady, right? Played for the New England Patriots. Most people on the planet know who he is, quarterback, right? And he used to go back and watch the game reels, right? He would watch tapes of the games of what happened. And he was like breaking things down about what was working over here, what didn't work, da, 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 da. So when I kind of go back and I look at certain clients over years, and I'm like, okay, so why did somebody maybe have more do I want to say fast acting? Well, let's just say shifts that happened in a quick way, right? Shifts in perception, shifts in their mind, shifts in their mindset, physically feeling better, emotionally feeling better, right? So when I work with people, there's 4 planes that are being affected. There's the physical, right? The somatics that I might do. Some somatics works with anti-anxiety stuff and pattern interrupts, yoga, breath work, stuff like that, right? Different tools to interrupt brain patterns, right? To create better habits, better ways of being, more empowering, right? So there's physical, there's a mental aspect to this work, there's an emotional aspect to this work, and there's a spiritual aspect to this work. So people change on multiple levels and in a variety of ways. And so when I look back and I think, like, who were the people that had incredible results? And what it comes down to is simply this: they wanted it. They wanted it. And the reality of it is we will transform. Okay. We will change. We will grow to the degree that we want it. That's really the secret. We will grow to the degree that we want to grow. We will change to the degree that we want to change, and even more so to the degree that we are willing to change. And this is the difference oftentimes. Any coach, right? And whether that's you're a fitness coach, you're a coachy coach, you're a life coach, you're a spiritual mentor, you're a business coach, whatever. This is what we know to be true. The clients who have great success are people who are in it. They are taking their investment of their time, their money, their energy, their spirit seriously. They're taking your time as a coach seriously. They are taking the fact that they've got this one life and only a certain amount of time to be alive, and no time is guaranteed, seriously. And seriously doesn't mean that you don't have fun, because trust me, there are some tears when I am working with people, right? There is some growing pains, there is some discomfort, but we fucking laugh a lot. We laugh a lot because humor is one of my core values. Like I use humor a lot when I'm teaching. Also, humor is a pattern interrupt. Laughing is a balm. It is a healing balm, right? So I don't use humor just to deflect, but it is a great way to connect with people, to kind of create, to lighten, to have levity, right? To lighten, because again, this being human is fucking hard. And sometimes we just need a good laugh. But here's my whole point. We have to have a deep, deep desire to know ourselves and to be in proactive participation of our own healing, and to be in participation with love. We have to be in love with what becomes possible. We have to want it. You gotta want it. You can't really do this work half-ass. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't do it in chunks. It doesn't mean that you can't dive deep and then pause and then kind of, gather your wits, as I like to say, and take some time to reflect and to integrate and to implement and to embody it. I have clients who work with me and then go away for a few months and then come back, or go away for a year and then come back and work with me in different capacities. And whether that's they start off by listening to the podcast, and then maybe they get my little, $27 connect with your spiritual team, right? And then maybe they're like, oh, she's doing a workshop somewhere, and they go to that. And then they're like, ooh, I'm going to go to the 4-day retreat in November. Great. And then usually people will build up, right? And say, and now it's like group coaching program. Some people, in fact, I had somebody reach out to me the other day, and after talking with them, it's like self-admittedly, they're like, I'm not ready yet for that one-to-one, because one-to-one work with me is intensive, and it is intense, and it is intimate, right? And so sometimes people are a little afraid of that. And whether or not they're afraid of the price tag, whether they're afraid of the commitment to change, or like whatever the thing is, this is not a judgment on anybody. Everybody gets to decide for themselves when they're ready. But you're going to get the best bang for your buck, and you're going to get the best results and the greatest change and stuff when you are all in, when you take it seriously. That when it's time to do the work, we do the work. And then when it's time to kind of rest and receive, that's what you do. But you can't do this work half-assed. You can't, that old saying, like, what do they say? Like no, I don't want to use that as an example. And never mind. And hashtag never mind. Sometimes the things that pop into my head are not the things that like the first things that pop into my head are like, Vicky with 2 Ks from Lauren's Thoughts. Like, we're going to just move the mic for a second. Okay. So this is what I'm trying to say. We will grow and change and transform to the degree that we want to. So it has to be on some level, some part of you that says, I'm sick of this shit. I'm sick of sitting in my shitty diaper. I'm sick of sitting in my patterns. I'm sick of sitting in my habits. I'm sick of being trapped by my old belief systems. I'm tired of the old stories I've been telling myself, and whether you call them limiting beliefs. I'm tired of identifying with the things that happened to me, right? I want to take those things and I want to be able to, shift my perception of myself. And it's, because we can't change what happened, but what we can do is shift and change how we're relating to what happened. To me, there is no greater work that we're doing on the planet than learning how to know ourselves, to understand why we do what we do, think what we think, believe what we believe, behave how we behave, so that we can adjust as needed, right? This isn't about this kind of this backlash I've seen lately where people are like, I don't need to be the best self. Myself as I am is perfect. Yes, and all parts of you are welcome here. You are lovable just as you are, right? So this whole thing of this backlash about I don't have to be my highest self, or I don't have to be my best self. It's like, why not? Why not? It doesn't mean you're always going to show up as your best self. And it doesn't mean that you are unlovable when you don't show up as your best self. But why wouldn't we want to show up and create from that divine spark within us that moves us beyond our animalistic tendencies in nature to just survive and compete? Why wouldn't we want to shift into really knowing ourselves in our truest level of potentiality, of what's possible? When we stop identifying as just a body and we start remembering who we are as spirit, what becomes possible? And that's the question, right? When it's like, okay, I've got to want this. This is what I say to people. There have been times, right? So my clients know. I say, all right, you ready? And some people bristle at this concept of tough love. I'm like, but what you're forgetting is that it's love. The things that I say are all coming from a place of love. And I'm not mean. Sometimes I am direct, right? I like to speak plainly. If you've listened to this podcast, I don't get too fancy. I like to communicate at the level at which we both fucking understand each other. You know what I'm saying? So, and sometimes I'll be like, hey, a little bit of tough love. I can't want this more than you do. I cannot want your happiness. I cannot want your health. I cannot want your wholeness. I cannot want your well-being. I cannot, you've got to want this. I'm not here to drag you around towards your own healing and happiness, towards your own inner peace, right? That doesn't work. Anybody who's ever known somebody trying to get sober, and we're going to go there in a second, you know that doesn't work. I can't want it for you more than you want it. That's not how people get well. A person has to be invested in their own outcome. They have to be proactive in their own healing. There's got to be a desire there. So you, as a person who is trying to change, and especially if you're going to invest in working with a professional or an expert or a coach or a mentor or whatever, like, don't waste your time and your money. You got to take yourself seriously. And what I mean by that is if you can just tap into some part of you that does believe that you are worthy, that does believe that you matter, that does believe that you have purpose, that does believe that you've got something to say and something to do while you are here. That is so important. If you even just get a little sniff of it, right? If there's some curiosity that pulls you towards a particular coach or a mentor or a book or a resource or whatever it is, like, follow it. Trust that impulse. Trust that impulse towards love. Trust it. Follow it. And as you start to work with somebody like me, that muscle will grow. That spiritual muscle will grow. That self-love muscle will grow. That self-worth and self-esteem and self-trust and self-integrity muscle will grow. But it's got to start with the seed that is blossoming within your own heart, right? It's got to start with a spark in your own soul within you. A coach can water it, blast it with a little sunshine. Like, there's that great, I know it is in a Jewish faith book somewhere. Now, some people say the Talmud, but I think it was written somewhere else first. And I'm simplifying it, right? But the phrase is like, over every blade of grass, there is an angel leaning over it, whispering, grow. Over every blade of grass, there is an angel bent over it and whispering, grow. Now, as a spiritual mentor, as an integrative change worker, as a coach, as all the things, a yoga teacher, all the things that I'm bringing right to my work, I can be watering you and nourishing you and nurturing you and cheering you on. I can be whispering over you, grow. But man, does change actually happen because some part of you is inside of you, whispering, grow, longing for the growth, desiring the growth, wanting the growth. You've got to want it first. And got to want it for yourself. And sometimes it can be hard to get in touch with that part. And some great questions to ask yourself is why? Why is it worth it to invest my time, my energy, my mental capacity, my emotions, and my money into working with a coach or an expert or a therapist, like whatever you decide to do to better yourself, to invest in books or workshops or seminars or whatever it is, right? We have to ask ourselves, why do I want to do this? Number one, right? Like, what's in it for me? And one of the ways you can ask yourself is, what becomes possible if I'm actually successful at this? What becomes possible when I stop being so anxious? What becomes possible when I stop doing these habits that keep fucking me up and getting me in the way? What becomes possible when I stop seeing myself, right, as X, Y, and Z? Not capable, not smart enough, not worthy, right? What becomes possible when I start to heal my trauma and realize that it's okay for me to have needs, that I matter, that I'm here to create something. I'm here to participate in the flow of life. Like, I've got an individual curriculum. I've got a divine assignment. I'm here to do something too, right? And what is it going to cost you? Right? Like, really, what will it cost you to not change? To not do maybe the uncomfortable thing? As my friend Emmeline, I was talking with my friends Emmeline and KT. We were talking about like, how much longer do you want to keep kicking that can down the road? How much longer do you want to just keep doing the same old, being stuck in the same pattern, in the same routine, in the same bullshit, in the same relationship, in the same misery? And I'm not saying, hey, maybe you're in an incredible relationship. That's awesome. But where are the places in your life where you do feel stuck, where you do feel sick and tired of being sick and tired, where you feel sabotaged, where you feel separate, where you feel scared, right? So this is what I'm saying. You've got to want something different. You've got to want that thing that becomes possible. Like, what do you dream of? What does your heart call you towards? What lights you up? What kind of life do you want to live? But you've got to want it. Your coach can't want it more for you. Your parent can't want it more for you. Your partner can't want it for you. Your cousin can't want it for, like, you've got to want it. That's how we get our ass in gear. That's how we start saving our pennies for the trip or the retreat or the class or whatever, the guitar you want to buy so you can finally learn how to play. Whatever the thing is, there's got to be a little ember. There's got to be a little ember that you can blow on, that you can like fan that flame so that sucker goes a little more wild, you know what I'm saying? So it burns a little brighter. Get a little heat, right? Like light a little fire under your own ash, you know what I'm saying? Oh my God. Okay. Now, let's go to part 2 of this. So this was, you've got to want it. Now let's shift to, they've got to want it. Okay. We all know the saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you cannot make that sucker drink. Okay. So when I post a testimonial or a story, like I did of Jordan's the other day, it's very common that people start to kind of come out of the woodworks, and people will reach out to me and say all kinds of things, some really supportive and beautiful and empowering. And a lot of times people will reach out to me and they'll either recognize something in the story or the testimonial that I just shared of a client's success. And they'll recognize somebody in their life, right, within that story. And whether it's they have the same symptoms or they had the same before picture, right? You know, like a before and after. That's really what a testimonial it is. A testimony is saying, hey, before I work with this person, this is what I was struggling with. This was my situation. This is what I was thinking and feeling and blah, blah, blah. And after our work together, this is now what I'm experiencing. This is now how I'm showing up. This is now how I'm thinking. These are the tools that I now have, right? So a lot of times people will hear that before piece and they recognize somebody in their life similarly suffering. And so they'll reach out to me and they'll say, hey, I've got a friend, or hey, my cousin, or hey, my partner, or hey, one of my kids, my son, my daughter, whatever it is. They're struggling with X, Y, and Z. You know, can I give them your information? Can I have them reach out to you? Do you think you can help them? Da, 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 whatever it is, right? And of course, it is always, I take referrals and recommendations and that kind of stuff really seriously. Like it is one of the greatest compliments you can receive as a practitioner of the work that I do, that somebody who knows you would be willing to, or at least point somebody, I'm not saying they pay for it, but at least point somebody in the right direction towards you. Because they're saying they trust you and they think that you could be helpful, right? The know, like, trust factor is there. And that is a huge compliment. And it's an honor, right? I appreciate that. And I always say, thank you so much for thinking of me. And then I have to go on to explain like, hey, but here's the thing, hashtag not a therapist, right? I don't work in the traditional and conventional way. And also I don't do one-off sessions. And also this is an investment because I work in programs, 3 months, 4 months, right? One-to-one group, whatever the situation is. And it's not covered by insurance because, again, hashtag not a therapist. So people have to be willing, right? First and foremost, again, let's circle back to this, to make an investment of time, right? Energy, their emotions, their mental capacity, and their finances. Can they afford to invest right? In this kind of work, this kind of program. It is intensive. It's different, right? It's not the typical mental health care or whatever approach. Again, not a therapist. I'm a spiritual mentor. I'm a hypnotist. I'm an integrative change worker. I'm a life coach. I'm a yoga teacher, right? So first I explain that. And then here's the big piece. I always have to say to them, look, I get it. It's really hard, right? It's hard to see people you love suffer. I'm sorry to hear that so-and-so is experiencing such and such. But here's the thing. They've got to want to change. They've got to want to do this work. If they're attached to their stories, if they're attached to their limitations, real or perceived, right? If they're stuck in their old identity, if they're not ready to do this kind of work, they're not even interested in doing this work. And it's a lot of times why I will talk to somebody, especially if I've known you, like if you've been a yoga student of mine for a long time, or we've worked together in some capacity, and you reach out and you're like, hey, I'm ready to do your, the alchemy program. So my group coaching program that's starting in September, which if you're interested in, go to karenkenney.com/alchemy. Check that sucker out. It's a 4-month program, group, small, intimate, 12 people. Already get a few people signed up. I'm really excited about it. Okay. But so I'll say to them, I appreciate that you're recognizing and witnessing somebody's struggle, and that you don't want them to have to keep going through this. You don't want them to be so scared or anxious or stressed out or fill in the blank, right? Drinking too much or blah, 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 blah. Right. However, they're inflicting sometimes, suffering on themselves or going through a thing, grief, whatever it is. And I'll say to them, it's beautiful that you want to help them, but they've got to want it. When you think about like in the sober community or in the recovery community, right? When you have family interventions, I always find it so fascinating. Now, because it applies to like what I'm saying right now. Like somebody hears Jordan's story, they write to me and they're like, so-and-so in my life is suffering. It'd be one thing if they're writing to me and they're saying, hey, I read that, I resonated with it. Can we work together? I'm ready to do this work. I want to do this work. That's a different conversation than, hey, so-and-so that I know is suffering, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, well, but you're reaching out to me. They may not even be aware that they're suffering. They may not even be aware that there's a different way. They may not want to change. So yeah, like here's some parameters. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the price, the investment, the time, like all, I lay out some of the elements so people know what the deal is. Cause I don't like to blindside anybody. This is what's happened. This is what the program is. And if they want to do that, they can reach out to me. But again, it comes from that place of love where they want to be helpful, but shit isn't going to happen. Just because you want somebody to get sober, just because you want somebody to change, just because you want somebody to transform. And sometimes, now let's go under and be a little bit honest. Okay. I mean, I'm always trying to be honest, but let's get under the motivation. Now, I'm not talking about anybody in particular. I want to be very clear. I'm not saying anybody who reached out to me after the Jordan thing that I'm talking about you. I'm saying humans, people be peopling, right? This is just people be peopling. Sometimes people want those other people to change and transform and stop doing whatever they're doing because it makes your life easier. Because you don't want to have to be thinking about them, worrying about them, paying for them, cleaning up their messes, whatever. Yes, of course, you also love them, but you can't handle the discomfort in your own nervous system. This is how we end up with enablers. It's because, you don't have those internal stabilizers in place to be able to say, this is this person's decision. They want to live like this, right? But what happens a lot is when you're outside of it and you can see the shit show unraveling, and we kind of want to swoop in and save each other and save people. And it's a beautiful impulse. I get it. But how many interventions, family interventions, have gone wrong because that person doesn't think they have a problem, don't want you up in their business, aren't seeking sobriety or fill in the blank, whatever the thing might be, why the family's gathering around to speak up. They might not see it the way you see it, and they may not want to do anything about it. They don't want to go to rehab. They don't want to stop fill in the blank. They've gotta want it. And when I've worked with people who have, again, great results, good results, but I know could have had amazing results, it's because, well, there's a lot of reasons why it could be. They're not actually, a lot of times we convince ourselves that we're ready to do the work and we want to change and we want, right? Like we love to say, again, my last week's podcast episode, be a verb, right? Talk is cheap. Talk is cheap. A lot of times we want to be ready to actually do the thing and change the thing and have to rearrange some stuff in our subconscious and in our lives, in our intention and how we're showing up, in our habits. And we say we want it, but we don't really want it, or we're not quite ready for it yet. You know what I mean? So with all of good intentions, part one, you've got to want it. Other people can't drag you toward your own salvation, right? You've got to pay the consequences of being yourself. Like you've got to want to steer the ship in a new direction. And the good news is that there's plenty of resources and plenty of help out there. But the first thing has to be your own desire. And then for those of you that want to help others, make change or get sober or stop fill in the blank, stop harming themselves or hurting themselves or making choices that, that keep you up at night, they've got to want it first. As hard as that is to accept sometimes, because it can be really painful, right? To see somebody you care about, to see somebody that you love be destructive, to be self-destructive, to be self-harming, to be making choices that, and especially when you're older and they're younger and you have a little more life's experience and you ever just watch something, right? Who here has ever watched somebody you love? And they don't always have to be younger than you. Sometimes they're older than you, like whatever, but you know what I'm saying? When you've been there, done that, and you see somebody about to make that choice and you just shake your head and you go, well, this isn't going to end well, right? We already know this isn't going to end well. And here's the thing, when you are younger, when I look back to when I was a teenager, to when I was in my 20s, right? Man, do you think that you fucking know everything? You think you are the cat's meow and the cat's pajamas and the bee's knees and like you got it all figured out and you are smart and you're hip and old people don't know and they're stupid and creepy and like we know everything. And you just sit there and you're like, oh, this is not gonna end well. And, people got to learn. People got to learn. You can't, just like you can't wrap your kids in bubble wrap and protect them from every little choice or decision. They're never going to learn that they're resilient or capable. They're not going to find tenacity. They're not going to learn that they can, think on their own, that they can formulate, they can problem solve. They won't know that if people keep sweeping them out of, harm's way or danger, or you don't let them deal with the consequences of being themselves. And there are just times when you can't tell somebody anything. They don't want to hear it. They are not open and receptive to your wisdom, your experience, your point of view, your knowledge, your advice. They're like, save it, zip it, all set, don't need it. And that's just it. You can't save people. I always say you cannot save people from themselves. They've got to want it. And if you're somebody who's been listening to my podcast and it's not just me, I'm going to use me because that's the best example I've got, right? If you're somebody who's been thinking about working with me, wanting to work with me or whatever, and, in the past, maybe one-to-one seemed too big or scary and, the little membership didn't seem like the right thing. Now might be the perfect time. Now might be the perfect time because I have a group coaching program, The Alchemy. Think about what an alchemist is, right? They transmute things from one thing into another. It's a powerful thing. There's so much magic that's about to happen. 12 seats at the round table. Okay. 3 of them already claimed, a 4th and a 5th right on the edge, right on the edge. So there's a certain number of seats left. I would love to have you join us. There's going to be, right, incredible, collective learning. I should just do a podcast. Note to self. I got to write that down. I'm going to do a whole podcast on the compound interest of like collective learning and how incredible it is to do this kind of work in a group, because it is really incredible. Again, just go to KarenKenney.com/alchemy. But here's the thing I'm going to say. You've got to want it. You're going to get out of it what you put into it. I know how I'm going to show up. I know what I'm going to put into it. I know how I'm going to pour into it, how present I'm going to be, how passionate I'm going to be, right? But I can't do the heavy lifting for you, right? Like so Jordan, right? Jordan, who I've been talking about this testimonial, Jordan has also been my strength and conditioning coach, my vegan conscious muscle guy, right? And we always joke. I'm like, look, I'm going to make gains because I'm going to be the one who drives my ass to the gym and does the strength training and does my cardio and does the work. You can't come here and lift the weights for me. I can't expect me to grow my muscles, my physical muscles, by you doing the heavy lifting for me. I've got to do it. You can write the program, you can coach me, you can support me, but I've got to do it. And it's the same thing when you're growing your spiritual muscles. It's the same thing. I can't do the heavy lifting for you. But if you are serious and you are ready and you're just like, this is my time. This is my time. I'm ready to go all in and I want to do this stuff, right? This could be the perfect time maybe to work together. So that's what I got to say, guys. And you can apply this to whatever, whether it's you finally want to get your book done, I'm just making shit up, right? You want to get your book done. You want to learn how to play guitar. You want to launch your course. You want to get in shape and get stronger. You want to whatever it is, right? You've got to want it. And then the support people that you can bring around yourself to support you, to have community, to cheer you on, to hold you accountable, right? To help you to stay in self-integrity, all that stuff is so much better. It starts with you. So that's what I got for you guys today. I hope this is helpful in some way. If you can relate to this, right? And just we can all look at times in our life, myself included. I can look at times in my life when I thought I wanted a thing. And I'm the type of person that has to try things and find out for myself. I gotta fuck around and find out, right? That's my approach to my business. That's my approach to my personal life. That's my approach to the things that, capture my curiosity. Somebody can tell me about, oh, this song, you're going to love this movie, this person, this content, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah. You have your opinions. I've got to go and experience it for myself. That's how I learn what's right for me, right? I can't just take it. It's not that I don't trust my friends' opinions, but to know whether something is for me or not for me, I have to personally experience it. And there are times when I've told myself, this will be amazing. You're going to love this. You should check this out. Oh my God. And then I do it and I'm like, nope. Didn't really want it, wasn't really ready for it, not my scene, not my thing, not the teacher that, you know what I'm saying? And there's no shame in it. No shame in it, because sometimes we got to come back 3 months later or 6 months later or take that leap of faith, right? So I just want to say that too, right? You're ready when you're ready, but don't pause so long. Right? Don't be anesthetized by your fear. Keep your heart, your mind, your 3 brains, right? The 3 brains, your brain in your head, the brain of your heart, the brain in your belly. Align those suckers, really tune in. Right? And be watching. You'll know when it's the right time if you're listening. Okay. You guys, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week. Wherever you are right now, if you can hear the sound of my voice, okay? Know that I'm cheering you on. Know that I am blasting you with love. Know that I believe in you. And you again, we will grow and change and transform to the degree that we want to. But you've got to want it. Wherever you are in the world, right? May you leave yourself, the people, the places you visit, the animals you come in contact with, the environment itself, because the environment is in trouble and it's because people be peopling. So be one of the people who are leading with love, who are showing up with love, who are conscious and aware of your effect on your surroundings. Okay, wherever you go, may you leave people and everything you come in contact with better than how you found it. Wherever you go, may you be a blessing. Bye. Hey, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Karen Kenney Show. I super duper appreciate your time, friendship, and support. And look, if something that I shared from my heart today somehow landed in yours, I'd love to hear about it. So please tag me on Facebook or Instagram or IG stories or wherever the cool kids are hanging out these days, and let me know what your favorite part was or what you found most helpful. You can find me over at Karen Kenney Live. That's Karen, KenneYlive. And if you're digging what I'm saying and you want to hear more, I'd be wicked grateful if you could go to iTunes and subscribe and leave a review, because you guys, that's how you'll help me to keep spreading the love. And if you can think of someone that could benefit from hearing this episode, please share it with them. I'd also love to stay connected with you. So if the feeling is mutual, please go to KarenKenney.com/freebie and download my free guide to building your spiritual team. Until next time, my brothers and sisters, keep living in the fearless flow. Know that I see you, I appreciate you, and I love you. And wherever you go, may you be a blessing.